Listen, I gotta bake another one. Didn't want to have to do this, but y'all made me. Keyshawn Davis defeats Gustavo Lemos. All of a sudden, he's ready for Gervonta Davis. And some of you believe this is a fight that should be next. Wow. Where do I really even start? Now, I got to give you guys this quick preamble in case you're new to the channel, or to let you know this and get this off my chest. Ego thoughts. The reality is this. You guys force my hand, right? And I'm going to explain it. Meaning, boxing could be just a wonderful place, beautiful sport, but there's a lot of dumb commentary and spin doctors and narrative pushing in the sport of boxing. And if people had a level of chill, I wouldn't even have to make videos like this. But since people have agendas and then they want to pump propaganda, I gotta do it. So I would be very happy just giving all the credit that I gave to Keyshawn Davis on his win. He looked sharp versus Gustavo Lemos. I have a full-fledged breakdown so you can hear me give Keyshawn his props for the victory. But this is where it gets a little bit shaky. Instead of it just being what it was, a good win over a solid guy, Gustavo Lemos, Keyshawn, there was a lot of pressures that he had and he didn't fold. Congratulations. That's good in the progression. And I also said in my video, that was my favorite Keyshawn performance so far that I've watched. And I've watched Keyshawn, Pedraza, and Yigit and all these fights that he had on Top Rank. But then comes the clout chasing. Post-fight, he called out, said, knock, knock, Tank, I'm coming, yada, yada, yada. Let's not beat around the bush. It's not going to happen. I doubt it. I mean, he doesn't even have 15 fights. He did good in Norfolk, Virginia, where he's from, and he did like a $10,000 or a 10,000 seater, which is good. Again, these are all good things for where he's at and his progression. But make no mistake about it, that's not Ucker with Tank. Tank been doing that for 10 plus years or whatever it's been. That's nothing. 10 plus years. Tank also has, you know, a $20 million gate. So you got to catch up. There's a lot of catching up to do, right? You're not on that level, right? In terms of the star power, you just got one. And people did this with Devin Haney as well. Devin had a nice sized crowd and probably his biggest live gate before the Ryan Garcia fight. And that was against Regis Prograis in San Francisco. And I was at that fight. People turn this into a big deal and then act like Tank is going to chase these guys. And Tank has been putting out bigger crowds and bigger sellout events, more celebrity, all this type of stuff. And it's just funny to me. Keyshawn is not a champion as of right now. Another reason I don't think the fight will happen next, Top Rank put out a graphic. And in this graphic, it is a picture of Keyshawn Davis posing the question, who's next? Like, who will Keyshawn fight next? And guess what? The graphic has Denis Baranchuk, Vasyl Lomachenko, and Ray Murataya. It doesn't even say anything about Gervonta Davis. So to me, that lets me know that that's not really a feasible fight. Why didn't they include Tank in the graphic if they really thought they could get the fight done? And it was a fight that they could execute. So for me, the plan is very clear. They're putting Lomachenko, but Lomachenko sounds skeptical and a bit doubtful that he'll even continue to fight. He had an opportunity to fight Gervonta Davis, and then he pulls out saying he's not in the mood to fight. So what makes you think he wants to fight Keyshawn Davis? You know, he's gonna look at that fight. This is my opinion. He's gonna look at that fight like, what's in it for me? And it's so funny because the same idiots who are peddling like, oh, Keyshawn and Tank deactivated his Twitter account because of Keyshawn called him out. There's no pressure to Lomachenko. They won't say, Lomachenko, I bet you don't take the Keyshawn Davis fight. And here's the funny thing. Lomachenko had the opportunity to fight 3 black fighters from America. He could have fought Tank, negotiations stalled out. Shakur Stevenson was calling him out. And now Top Rank is putting out this graphic with Keyshawn. And we'll see. I highly doubt, just like he didn't fight Tank, just like Lomachenko didn't fight against Shakur Stevenson, but seen him in the crowd of a Canelo fight, and said, oh, we could get it rocking right now. You're a prize fighter. Why would you street fight Shakur when he's trying to fight you in the ring? So to me, this whole thing sounds stupid. I highly doubt that Lomachenko will fight Keyshawn, but let old media tell it. Tank gotta fight Keyshawn or he's ducking, but they won't say that to their god, Vasyl Lomachenko, who, again, he might just consider retirement with a record that is, to me, abysmal. And that's just what it is. So the Keyshawn win was cool, but I think a lot of people, they're not me. So, you know, they're prisoners of the moment. There's an insane recency bias, so they're just jumping out the window like they always do. You notice with guys like Floyd Mayweather, guys like Gervonta Davis, they're always trying to build a new Frankenstein. You know, for Floyd, 1 minute it's Antonio Margarito. Then he gets cooked by Shane Mosley. Floyd fought Shane Mosley right after that fight. You know, at other times it could be Paul Williams. If it wasn't Paul Williams, it was Sergio Martinez. If it wasn't Sergio Maravilla, then they'll say he need to move to 160 and fight against Triple G. Hell no, goddamn Max's guys is not. Right? It's always something. Same thing with Tank. People were pushing for the Devin fight, and he pretty much gets cooked by Ryan Garcia's left hook on April 20th. Now people are bringing up Shakur Stevenson. Now Shakur in his last 2 fights, you know, people kind of expected a bit more. Edwin De Los Santos and also against Artem Haratunian. And after Devin lost, they immediately jumped on Shakur's back and said, this is the guy Tank needs to fight. This is the guy, blah, blah, blah. And then now Shakur, after 2 mid type of performances with no stoppages, right? Then they say, now it's Keyshawn Davis. You see how it keeps flopping. It's like goes from one host. These people in boxing are parasitic. They need a host. So they just keep going from one host to another host to another host. And if someone can't keep their brand high, can't keep their rep up, then they'll move on to the next one, right? And it's just so funny that people have this crazy recency bias in boxing. Like when Keyshawn was failing the PED test with the cannabis, whether you agree with it or not, and he's looking like not that great versus Albright. He fought a guy named Albright. He didn't look that great in that fight. He also fought against, Medueno. Didn't really look amazing. Couldn't get the stoppage there. But then now he fights Gustavo Lemos, and it's a good win. And people blow it out of proportion, saying that he has arrived. Like, let's be real. Gustavo Lemos, nobody even see, and this is what I'm saying. Now, because you guys do too much, people are gonna say you're hating because I gotta outline the facts. When I put it in the facts, like I didn't want to have to do this, but y'all made me. Ego Jones Jr., baby, Pensacola in the house. Didn't I just say that? I didn't want to have to do this, but you guys are the ones that make me do this. Like, I would be happy, just like I said earlier, give Keyshawn his credit. You beat Gustavo Lemos. That's a good, solid win, and keep it rocking. But again, you guys got to do way too much and start doing too much. Then I got to put it in perspective. Let's be real. Nobody even knew who the Gustavo Lemos was until he fought Africa Richardson Hitchens. He gave Hitchens a tough fight, and some even say he almost won. And that's why people expected a good fight out of the Keyshawn Davis. And he was missing weight and things like that. But styles make fights. Hitchens is not known for having the most power, and Keyshawn does. So Keyshawn was able to tame Gustavo Lemos. The other thing I would say is, if I'm being honest, Gustavo Lemos probably came in better shape when he fought Hitchens, because this fight he missed by almost 7 pounds, and that's like you didn't even try in my book. So the reason why I was like, this is super dangerous, because like I said, it's like a cop and there's a suspect, and a suspect says he has a weapon, says he has a pistol on him, and he pulls out an object that, even if it's a toy gun, you got to treat that like a real threat. You got to treat that as if that's a real gun, because it could be a situation of you or him, right? So when somebody misses weight by an egregious amount, 2 things come to mind. Either 1, they're mad undisciplined and they're gonna have a horrible performance because they're so undisciplined that they didn't train hard and things like that. That's one thing it could mean. But two, it could mean that the person did it like almost in a deceitful way to gain an advantage, kind of what Ryan Garcia said he did with Devin Haney, where it's like, I'll take the fine. I just want to knock this guy off. I want to beat Keyshawn so bad. I want to kind of cheat the contract and go outside the rules. And then if he agrees to it, because you have to understand it's last minute, you don't have that much time the day before the fight to reroute and get a whole new opponent. So you put your opponent and the promoter in a sticky position. And then, so without being in camp with the fighter, me personally, I'm always going to classify and treat that as a real threat that they may have done this intentionally. So that's what I said in my broadcast and on my videos and in my content, that I'm just going to treat it as a real threat and assume that he did this intentionally. But being honest, the way he showed up, the way he performed, it looked like more of a discipline issue. Like he didn't have a great camp or whatever. And that's not to make excuses, because it's not Keyshawn's fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's his fault. If he didn't train, that's on you. But people are jumping out the window and they're saying like, oh, Keyshawn is da-da-da-da. You didn't even know who Lemos was until, like I said, the Africa fight. And to be honest, Tank would have done the same thing with the Lemos. You know what I mean? And Lemos, he just looked sloppy. He was missing a lot in the first round and things like that. Credit to Keyshawn. He figured out the puzzle. He had the power, unlike Africa. So he was able to, discourage and pick his shot. And he also had the hometown advantage. So you don't want to lose in front of your hometown crowd. And you fought the right fight, trained hard. And that's what Keyshawn did. So I give him props for the victory. But I think the way people are acting now, they're taking the victory out of proportion. And I always like to put things in perspective. The perspective is Gustavo Lemos. His claim to fame is pretty much a loss to Hitchens. And he's coming from 140 down to 135. You got to take these things into consideration, and maybe that was it. Because if Keyshawn fought him at 140, then there'd be absolutely no excuses no matter what, because that's the weight that he had been campaigning. But when you bring a guy down in weight after they just came up, you never know how they're gonna look. Same thing with Chad Dawson and Andre Ward. Great victory for Andre Ward, but Chad had been fighting at light heavyweight instead of 168, which again he signed up for, so it's really on him. But I'm just going to say, any facts that you have surrounding the bout, you have to take that into consideration. So as far as this Tank talk, Tank, I doubt, is in the thing to fight Keyshawn for a variety of reasons. And I think the plan will be for Top Rank to put him in with Dennis Berenchuk. And I would favor Keyshawn in that fight at this moment, because I don't really rate Dennis Berenchuk that high, even though he beat Navarrete. Navarrete was moving up. So for me, Keyshawn, he did his thing. But as far as that Tank talk, a lot of y'all taking it out of consideration. I think Tank would definitely beat Keyshawn, as of where we're at right now, and people are just prisoners of the moment, and they see a good performance and then they go crazy. And that's just the nature of where we're at with social media. If a fighter looks bad, they say retire, it's over, hang it up. If a fighter, wins but looks mediocre, they say you're done, right? And then when you win sensationally in front of a solid test, then they're right back there. Fair weather fans at best.